Hello and welcome to the Rose Garden of Secular Energeticist Global. If you've not heard of this or this is your first video, then the Rose Garden is an acronym for the representatives of secular energeticism. So today we are going to talk about chapter 3. This chapter of Matthew 10:10, Travels of an Awareness, and it needs to be said, Matthew 10:10 is my name and my birthday. This book is not religious. The Travels of an Awareness part is the important part. That's where we realize that we're traveling awarenesses. So anyway, we're going to talk about chapter 3 in this book today. And it is one of the first 4 chapters that one kind of has to get through in order to get to chapter 5, Energeticism, or now as it is formally called, secular energeticism. But the first 4 chapters of the book can be a little bit challenging. They serve as little mental obstacles for a lot of people to say, oh no, I don't want to read this book. It's too this, it's too that, it's too, edgy, it's too simple, it's too forceful, too venting. I mean, there's probably a lot of things a person would say about certain sections, certain things that are said early in this book. And these first 4 chapters are presented as challenges. They're just like existence. As far as trying to get to the point of realizing why we need to face these fundamental questions again and re-answer them, we have to get through a lot of BS first. And chapter 3 is the biggest challenge. It is called Why Now? I don't think I'm going to get emotional during this video, but why now is a question that just blows up in my head regarding why we need to revisit the fundamental questions of existence and reset our perspective on what we think our position is, our perception of our position. It's been very slow to catch up to the knowledge that we've acquired, which, if you watched the last video of chapter 2, it's taken us a long time to acquire that knowledge, and it takes a lot to actually get that knowledge. So sometimes when we understand this, we'll look around and we will accuse people of being ignorant, but they're not. I mean, sure, plenty of people ignore information put right in front of them. Yes, ignorance happens. But when it comes to all the information that we need to understand existence, it's not so much a matter of ignorance, so much as it is a matter of not knowing. So anyway, chapter 3, Why Now? This chapter can seem like a big venting chapter. It talks about the racism that we still are experiencing. I wrote this 13 years ago, by the way, and here we are, 2021. I think we know that there are some racial problems still going on all over the world. If you're not aware that they're going on all over the world, then boom, there you go. Many of us, not myself, but a lot of us, maybe at one point, we thought that racism was kind of dying out here in the US. But turns out that's not exactly the case. And racism runs deeper than most people really understand. It runs all the way to the point of identity. So at some point we're going to talk about that. We got a lot of other videos to do on actual subjects, and racism is one of them. Religion's another. But chapter 3 hits racism, religion, sexism, misunderstandings of government, disdain of education, all of these things and many other issues that we're currently facing and that we continue to face and will face for the next 50, 100, 200 years. Currently the planet's in a pretty tough spot. I mean, things are changing kind of dramatically. Weather's changing, and various nations are going through their changes as well. The US is going through its growing pains right now, which is all the more reason for this to be a thing. This pushes us in the direction of understanding. So why now? Well, it's because people are racist. It's because people are still being sexist. That, you have this role, you have that role, you were born into this role, therefore you're always going to be that. We self-impose identities onto ourselves that put ourselves in little prisons. Other people put identities onto us that puts us in a little mental prison. It says, oh, I'm always going to be this way. This is who I am. This is who I've always been. But aside from that, our racial problems, sexist problems, religious problems, government problems are actually causing harm to people. And these problems are actually misunderstandings. If you realize that we weren't different races in the first place, then why would we be racists? So, in the sexism stuff, these genders are to be understood, these gender differences, and they're full spectrum. The homophobia stuff, not realizing that everybody's born on some part of a spectrum, that's a hard thing for a lot of people to admit. But a lot less damage would be done if we understood existence for what it is, and the dynamics that go into what a person is cannot be defined by simple race labels. And then we move on to religion, which a lot of antagonists, or people who are in opposition to religion can be very forceful about it. And quite frankly, that's just how a person feels when they realize that they've been lied to. So when you feel like you've been deceived in any way, shape, or form, I'm sure you're not very happy with the person who did that, who deceived you and said, hey, this is one thing, and then you turn around and find out it's another. So imagine 300,000 years of gods and religions and so forth, and telling us to do certain things with our community, like killing people or cutting off hands for certain crimes, or a lot of things that just aren't true anymore, such as flat earth. And I know that whole thing is going on out there, people advocating for a flat earth, going backwards in knowledge. But so our lack of understanding is why now is a good time to revisit the fundamental questions of existence. Chapter 4 is the fundamental questions of existence. Chapter 3 sets you up to realize, holy cow, we thought we were in this position. We thought we were different races. We thought that the sexes need to be treated differently, that women shouldn't have voting rights, that women should be objects, that they should be owned, that slaves should be owned, that people shouldn't have rights. We thought that stuff within the last 100 years, and there are still people thinking it today. And all the while, we remain energetic beings here on a planet out in space to survive, reproduce, and alleviate boredom while we sit on a planet out in the middle of nowhere. And we're sitting here coming up with all kinds of different things to divide each other. All of this is being done through our misunderstandings. What would be a better way to understand a lot of this stuff? Well, understanding our animal nature. And guess what? We've been pushing away the idea that we even have an animal nature for thousands of years. And the more you separate from that and don't understand it, the more it actually affects you. So within that animal nature, things like the fight or flight response, this will to power, and many other, complex mechanisms that a lot of people aren't familiar with because they're too busy denying that they're even animals. When you look at the animal world, we are acting exactly like them. They're acting exactly like us. We all have these societies that are governed by natural laws and our imposed laws. We happen to be more complex beings, so we write down laws, carry out laws, and govern ourselves. So, these misunderstandings that we have regarding many of the subjects I've mentioned are bringing harm to people. Now, you ask yourself point blank, is a misunderstanding supposed to bring harm to people? No, it's not. So, this is the problem that we've been having for many, many years. Being afraid of our fellow people here on this planet. So all of this is an effort to elevate our perception of our position here in this body, with this brain, all the parts of this brain, what we're made of. There's a lot of information out there for you to get in touch with, to understand. So not everybody's going to be okay with this. Not everybody's ready for this. But this is the direction that the universe goes when it's trying to understand itself. It has to face things very realistically, and we haven't. And that has caused a lot of pain. That is why now is a really good time to revisit the fundamental questions of existence, re-answer them with current information that is readily available, information that is highly probable as far as being congruent with reality. 99% probable that I am sitting here talking on this thing with you, that I am made of the same stuff that the rest of the universe is made of, 99%, that I'm a genetic organism, that I've got a brain, and that many of these brain parts do these different functions that set up chemical changes. There's a ton of very real information to know. And if we could drop the racism stuff, great. If we could understand the positions that we're born into, the dynamics of those positions, which I go into in the book, great. If we could understand our past and our history and how we've mistreated ourselves and admit to that mistreatment and be a little bit humbled by our animal natures, then we would be way better off. So, I highly encourage you to get my book, Matthew 10:10, Travels of an Awareness. First 4 chapters are a little, challenging to get through before you get to the perspective that is Energeticism. The next video I do will be on chapter 4, obviously. You can get my book on Amazon. There's a website, matthew1010.com. There's clothing that can be purchased. And there's stickers. We want to make this a thing. This is Secular Energeticist Global, and you're watching The Rose Garden. And I greatly appreciate you doing so. Take care until the next one.